saw a picture of this. I wanted to see it in real life.
Oh.
That looks nice, huh? Wow.
I don't see any oil leaks or anything. I just had to replace. I don't see any yet. This side's leaking. One can brake cleaner left. Yeah, this side's leaking like crazy. Did you bring the tools to snug this up a little?
Yeah.
See some light up here. Funnel was loose. Did you tell him what you told me about those wastegates?
Oh.
Go tell him, because if I tell him, he won't listen.
Can I record this?
Yes, I wish you would.
My point was just that with a 60mm gate with that much priority, it'll take a lot of dome pressure. So I won't be surprised if it needs more than it used to.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean anything's wrong, it's just the nature of that arrangement. The big gates are hard to keep shut, so they take a lot of pressure up top. And especially when they're laid out as well as they are, you have the force of the exhaust going through the system, hitting the bottom of that valve, trying to push it open too. So you get the static pressure, which is just your back pressure trying to open them, and you've got the dynamic pressure from the moving fluid trying to push on it as well. So it can take a good bit of dome to keep those shut. Especially when you get up in the high airflow, like high RPM, high boost, it's trying even harder to push that gate open.
Yeah, it sounded to me like it was only on about 12 pounds right there.
Yeah.
That's just the way it sounded.
How much bottle pressure do you have?
It's funny, it's in the green. Well in the green.
Because you're going to have to turn the dome pressure way up on those gates holding shut. I could hear it about midway through low gear. It started to open the gates or something because it just started to lay down. It just didn't run. It sounded flat in high gear, just like it wasn't on any boost.
Yeah, I didn't feel like it was on anything.
Does your boost controller log boost?
Yeah, I'll have to try that next time.
Yeah.
I just have to, once I back up, like when I hit the trans brake, it starts it over.
Right.
So I just have to make sure before I stage to reset it.
Yeah. Is that a boost leash or an AMS?
AMS.
AMS.
Big old gates, man.
Crazy seeing the size of the discharge pipe for those things. What is it, like 2 1/4?
I think so. I hope we made the right choice putting those on. The 40mm wouldn't. It just can't control boost. It just comes up regardless.
Yeah, it'd be too much boost. So if you didn't have a choice, at least you know that you're not suffering for nothing. If you have to fight to make them work a little bit, it's worth it because you couldn't use 44s. A lot of guys that I deal with could get away with 44s just fine, and they go to the 60s because they think bigger's better, and that bites them in the ass. But if you need them, you need them.
Yeah, it would just run away on 44s. You couldn't.
Yeah.
Like he'd program it for a mild boost ramp, and the truck would just fly.
Yeah.
Like there was no.
No turning it down.
Yeah, there was not. He couldn't turn it down enough.
Yeah.
So now we're kind of fighting going the other way.
Yeah. Sounds like you made the right choice. Just a matter of dialing it in.
Can I go ahead and put the hood back on?
Yeah.
At least we've got 4 hood pins.
Yep.
Tommy,
Behind you.
what's your passcode?
He's got a girlfriend now. He's got to have a passcode.
Always got a passcode.
I gotta edit that out.
Turning into a nice night.
It is nice out here.
Not too humid.
So what we've done is we went from a 44 millimeter wastegate to a 60 millimeter wastegate on each side, and I'm having to relearn my boost controller settings because it's taking more dome pressure to hold the gates. Is it still leaking?
Yes.
You put bigger turbos on it this time?
Yeah. We went from
This song pretty rich on methanol here.
yeah.
Because you get a ton of blow-by on rich methanol.
We went from a 66 millimeter cast wheel turbo to a Precision 7675 LS series cast wheel turbo. So far, we're gonna have to tune it in a little bit. You know, we're gonna have to work with the carburetor a little bit. I definitely noticed a difference. It seems a little more rich. So we're gonna have to work on that a little and work on figuring out the boost controller again. But other than that, I think once we figure it out, it'll be fast.
How much was it on?
My water meth gauge said 18 pounds,
How much dome pressure were you putting to it?
almost 30.
How much would you normally be on?
18 to 20.
Yeah, I was going to say probably 20-ish.
So you just got to relearn your dome pressure settings.
Yeah. If I can get this camera to... Oh, I logged it too. Let me see. I don't know. This thing says 28, but it doesn't seem right.
That's probably the dome pressure.
Yeah.
Actual versus start.
Yeah, that's just the dome pressure it's seeing. Yeah, that makes sense. Because I had 28 dome pressure in it right at the end.
One of them asked what springs you're using.
What, valve springs? Or
I
like
don't know.
springs in the front of the truck?
I'm guessing probably suspension, but
Suspension? Okay. I'm running the stock springs
yep.
that it came with, actually from 1988. We heated them up with a torch in the shop to lower it a little bit. It's kind of embarrassing, but I mean, it works. We're afraid to change it.
Hey, it's definitely working.
You know, we've had that forever. It's on the stock leaf springs in the back from 1988 as well. We removed a couple leaves, just cow tracks in the rear. It's really simple, Viking shocks all the way around. It's more about, a lot of people have trouble because they don't hit the chassis hard enough on the hit, and they're afraid to hit it, and they keep spinning. Sometimes you got to hit them harder, and it actually hooks better. That's one thing I've learned over the years.
All right.
But
Somebody asked if you'd ever considered big tire.
I'm not really sure about big tire just because there's not a whole lot of action local. You know, there's a lot of good stuff for big tire as far as what's on TV and Street Outlaws and all that, but that's never really been my area of expertise. I'm not into that. I kind of prefer the small tire stuff myself.
Definitely. Seems like the big money's in small tire.
Yeah, I really can't afford to do big tire racing competitively.
And someone else asked, is Tommy's truck on E85? If so, was it easy to set up? I ran a fuel-injected car with a turbo. Now I'm building a carbureted small block.
Yeah, Tommy's truck is on E85. It actually has the carburetor that came off of my truck when it was on nitrous. It's a quick fuel 1050 carburetor.
Yep.
It's got the E85 metering blocks, the green metering blocks. My dad tunes it all. It's pretty basic, honestly. Just get the E85 conversion kit.
All right.
Convert it over.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, you can't do that. If you can fix my phone so that you can, that'd be great. But
You want my video? Yeah, it's really on the edge, huh?
yes.
Okay.
Did you adjust the shocks in it?
I
want me
should probably
Soften them up.
soften up the front.
Yeah.
Let it come up a little quicker.
'Cause there's nothing out there. I mean.
Yeah, that's like a first round
Yeah.
scenario. First round, first pair.
But even with the shocks as tight as they are in the front, I'm surprised it didn't knock the tires off. You know what I mean? I mean, it's the front end's coming up, but it's not coming up quite as quick as it needs to for a first
At
round.
mags, like even after 5 passes, those shock settings will probably be good. But I might just leave it alone since we've got 2 hits on it now. Probably take a little bit of power out of it on the hit though.
Had somebody asking about your truck.
Yeah.
I just asked Billy about it. They were asking if your truck's on E85.
Yeah, it's on E85 with a standalone for the nitrous.
And then they asked if it was, oh, they just said I ran a fuel injected car with a turbo. Now I'm building a carbureted small block. And they just asked how easy it was to set up the E85.
Well, with my tuner, it was easy. You know, I don't know how to set it up, but Dad's really good at carburetor tuning.
Okay.
He's got that stuff down pat. That's a Dad question.
Is it?
Yeah.
That was a good lick.
You really hear the dumps working that time. It took off.
Dude, was that a good lick?
No, it slowed down.
Dude, it looked fast.
Huh?
It looked fast.
The draggy said it slowed down.
I don't think so.
I believe it.
No way.
No
I don't
way.
know, dude. That thing was rolling.
Maybe the bump tripped it. I feel like that was way faster.
How did it feel?
It felt pretty fast. Like it didn't spin. It just like blew through.
Yeah.
It did come on pretty late, so the 60 foot
Yeah.
could be right. It came on at like 40, 50 feet
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
Oh.
So maybe that's why the 60 foot doesn't show it. But from
Yeah, I
there
tried
on, I
leaving
think
on
it
less boost there, so it came in a little later.
Yeah.
It was stuck better all the way down that time.
It was. It didn't spin. I don't think. It sounded like it was spinning, but it wasn't.
No, it wasn't spinning.
Front suspension was topped all the way out. Like,
Yeah.
it just looked a lot better.
Yeah, it looked really good. So
That's a good first round tune-up, I think.
oh yeah.
That fucker will go down anything first round.
Hmm.
After first round, I won't need to use the dumps. I was just using one dump the first 2 passes, and that was to both of them right there, and you could definitely tell a huge difference.
Really?
That could explain the 60 foot too.
Yeah. You want to turn both dumps off and make one more?
Can see. I feel like I don't need that second dump until like 200 feet. Like it can leave pretty decent through the 60 foot, but I don't need to turn the second one on until I get out there to the transition, and it really doesn't need to be on very long.
Well, it's already hot. We're here and the lights are on if you want to make one more without the dumps, just to see what it does. I'd like to find the edge of it to where it knocks the tire off so we know where it's at. Because we're just guessing right now. You see what I'm saying? I need to know where that's at.
Did I see that last pass the video?
And if it knocks the tire off, just get out of it. Don't. That's a good problem to have. You're trying to find it, trying to make it knock the tire off. Let's see where it's at.
Yep.
You know?
That's crazy. It definitely looked fast.
Didn't it? I don't think it gets any better than that.
We're trying to knock a tire off.
It lost ignition when it came down.
Really?
It just shut off. And then I had to start it up over there once I got turned off, and it took forever to start, like it flooded.
Well, yeah, it's flooded with alcohol when you shut the ignition off.
Yeah.
So the engine shut off when it came down?
Yeah, as soon as the front tires touched the ground, the engine just shut off. It was on a freaking pass.
Yeah, that was about as perfect a wheelie as you could want. It was like a foot off the ground the whole way.
Oh my
Wasn't
God.
coming up, wasn't going down.
That would have been perfect. That would have been a fast pass.
You must have got a 60 foot on it.
129.
There we go. So probably a
On the back
125.
Well, the draggy doesn't know.
Well, still probably a mid 120 in real life. Draggies always have 10 slow.
Yeah.
Roughly. That was fun.
It was going too. It didn't even come down that hard. It just
Oh, it was
I
rolling.
thought the timing was a little too uncanny where it just touched down in the front and then I thought you let out of it, but that did seem like
No.
weird timing.
no. I was fully in the gas, and as soon as it touched the ground, it just shut off. Just lost ignition.
What's talking to you in the truck?
I don't know what you're talking
It's
about.
my goddamn phone.
What the hell?
I watched the GoPro.
We're trying to knock the tire off, not do 200-foot wheel stands. I mean, whatever, but you didn't loosen the front shocks, did you?
No, I just hit it harder. A lot harder. See if it'll take it.
I
She took it.
I was pissed.
You guys should test every time we scrape.
Yeah. After 4 passes, it's really good.
Ridiculous.
So Son, you scare me to fuck.
It was going really straight.
You scared me to death twice. Once when you stood on the bumper, and then the second time when I knew it wasn't running. Then I was really worried.
It's not my fault.
Just by the sound of that video, it sounds like you drove it off the transition, and that's what put the front end down when the back tires spun a little bit.
Yeah, I tried to ride it out as far as I could, and it started to come down, and I was like, sweet, it's rolling, it's coming down easy.
Yeah.
We're going to make it, and then as soon as the front wheels touched the ground, it shut off.
Sounds to me like we need to put a ground strap on that engine. From the frame to the block. A ground cable. Because the only reason it would shut off is if the distributor lost ground.
The only other time it's done that is when I was roll racing Zach. I took it to like 7,800 and it shut off. And then I had the same thing. It took forever to restart because it was flooded.
Vibration, maybe.
We need to look into it when we get it home, though, for sure.
With it running, I start shaking wire harnesses and banging on the switch panel and all that sort of shit. See if you can find something funky.
The ground for the ignition box is right here on the carburetor stud where I can keep an eye on it.
Right.
And it's tight.
Usually you got a heavy ground coming off the starter somewhere.
This one doesn't have anything. It's just on steel motor mounts.
Oh.
But
It's still worth running a 4-gauge cable. Usually I run it off one of the starter bolts. That's the highest current consumer in the engine.
it may need to have the battery ground cable to the frame back there cleaned up.
Nothing else turned off? Just the engine? Yeah.
Just the engine shut off?
Yeah, just the engine. Like nothing on the
So it's
no
not
lights.
switch panel or anything like that. Battery. It's all that narrows down a lot of stuff. So yeah, it must come down to something with the coil or
The ignition.
yeah.
See, you're coasting and the engine's still turning over and it's still drawing fuel.
Mm.
It's going to need an oil change now for sure.
I put it in neutral eventually and shut it off.
Or you just get the oil up over 150 and all the methanol boils out of
Wait
it.
a minute. If the engine's shut off,
Oh yeah, what'd the tax say? That comes from the
0.
coil. It did go to 0.
yeah, the TAC went to 0, but the air fuel's still showing 429, 427. How's that? It's dropping.
Yeah, I should have gone straight to full lean.
It didn't. It went rich. TAC's at 0 and it's going rich.
Not something weird like when you land at the float bolt or the floats come down or anything like that. That always works with these cars, right?
It's ignition because the TAC cut to 0.
That's right. That's still there.
It took it a second, but yeah, it's just the way attack does it.
That was probably going to be the fastest pass you've ever made at Marion.
Yeah. I turned it up out the back too.
You dirty shit. I told you not to do that.
Now was that with the dumps off?
No, I had them both on, but I turned them on at different times.
Gotcha.
Like I let them come in later.
Right.
That's probably what saved it from hitting the bumper.
no idea.
It's come down from a lot harder wheelies than that.
Right.
That's true.
But it's just the ignition though. I mean, nothing else in the truck shut off, right? None of the gauges. Just the ignition, but when you turn the ignition on, the tack and everything lights up, right? And none of that shut off. Just the ignition box.
Yeah, do the ignition box or?
I would say it's most likely it needs a ground cable run from the frame to the engine, because when it sat down, if it jiggled the engine just right and it lost ground, and the ignition box loses ground, because the ignition box is grounded to the engine, not to the chassis. Because when the front end came down, it must have jiggled the frame up there just enough for it to lose connection. And once it loses connection for a second, I mean, it's just going to flood the shit out of it if it don't have ignition. It ain't coming back.
Yeah, it's a lot of fuel going in there. Not getting lit.
Well, I'm just afraid right now that there's a lot of fuel in the oil from coasting down the track under boost. You know, you drown the fuel and then all of a sudden you just cut the ignition. It's good we found it tonight.
Yep.
Let's get that hood put back on.
How was that last pass?
Man, that last one was awesome. I felt like it was on one of its best passes ever at this track. Unfortunately, it shut off as soon as the front tires hit the ground. I think it's a ground issue. We narrowed it down to a ground issue.
Yeah, watching the GoPro, the only thing that shut off was the ignition. The tack dropped to 0, and the ignition box actually grounds to the engine. But we don't actually have a ground strap from the frame to the engine. It's just sitting on steel solid motor mounts. So I feel like when the front wheels came down, it jiggled the motor mounts just enough. Probably better check the motor mounts, make sure they're still tight. But I feel like it just jiggled the motor mounts just enough to make it lose ignition. Then, of course, once it loses it, it's not coming back easily with that much alcohol being run through the intake. So
Just instantly flooded it. But I think if it had stayed running, it would have made a really good pass.
I think it was probably about as fast as it's ever been here in Marion.
Damn.
It looked like it from the starting line.
We're learning. We messed with the dump valves tonight. I actually activated the second stage for the first time, and that was a big difference. And then I tried leaving harder, and it took it. So it's all good data to have.
We're really just trying to find the edge. We're trying to knock a tire off, and it won't do it. It just took it.
I think maybe if I tried that the first burnout, first pair, it probably would have smoked the tire, but 3 or 4 passes and it comes around pretty good. So,
Well, weather permitting, good luck this weekend.
we'll need it. I'll be happy if it's in one piece and we go home and I'll sell a couple t-shirts.
Nice.